So guys, it's time to come clean. Can't believe I've been lying to you for this long, but it turns out I actually have super secret Spider-Man powers. Just watch. Nah, I'm just kidding. I would never lie to you beautiful people. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and movie lovers of all kind. Welcome back to another Super Series Tuesday. And for today, we will be starting a brand new series, and it is going to be the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. Yes, I know this seems kind of odd and out of place, and I know there are plenty of requests out there for me to cover, but my reasoning behind this one is the simple fact that by the time this series wraps up, well, that Friday is actually going to be the release of Venom. So I figured, hey, Spider-Man 3 is the only other live-action version we have of Venom, so it'll be Venom, and then new Venom, and then who knows, maybe after that, some sort of comparison video. But regardless, guys, today we are going to be starting off with the first one, titled Spider-Man. Spider-Man was released in 2002. It was directed by Sam Raimi and stars Tobey Maguire, Willem Dafoe, Kirsten Dunst, James Franco, Rosemary Harris, and overall just a very notable cast. And the story is, well, it's the origin story of Spider-Man. If you don't know that by now, it's... wow, how would you not know that by now? There's been so many times this character was redone, and he's like one of the most prominent comic characters in the world, and regardless. It's the origin story of Spider-Man. So essentially it's just Peter Parker gets bit by a spider, becomes Spider-Man. So to start off the positives, ladies and gentlemen, and that is Spider-Man himself and his foe in this movie, the Green Goblin. Now firstly, the two of them are played wonderfully by Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man and Willem Dafoe as their Green Goblin. They do great in these parts. Honestly, they're fantastic, a perfect fit for these parts. Now I do honestly want to say very quickly that to me there is a difference between Tobey Maguire playing Peter Parker and Tobey Maguire playing Spider-Man. As Spider-Man, he's fantastic. I will touch on him as Peter Parker later, but Willem Dafoe across the board as Norman Osborn or the Green Goblin is just... wow, I'd say he is more than likely the best part of this movie. First off, they're super entertaining to watch, and despite what most people think, I'm actually going to go against the grain and say that I love the Green Goblin suit in this movie. I know a lot of people hate it, they think it looks clunky, it's weird, it's whatever. I honestly don't see any other way that the Green Goblin could have been brought to life, especially in 2002, like I don't even know how they would do it now. So I think that the Green Goblin suit in this movie is fine, honestly. I really enjoy it, I think it's great, I think it's menacing, it's creepy. And Spider-Man, of course, this is typically the Spider-Man costume that most people know now, aside from the original Spider-Man costume from like the 1960s cartoon. The dynamic between these two is fantastic. It's almost a love-hate relationship. It's like Spider-Man wants to take him down, the Green Goblin wants to take him down but respects him. I feel that they're super justified in doing what they're doing. I see both sides for sure. Norman is going to get kicked out of his company. He's going to lose everything. And Peter, of course, well, there are events that lead up to Peter, and again, I don't want to spoil it if for some reason you don't know the origin of Spider-Man, but regardless, they're both very justified in what they're doing. But with Peter, of course, the thing that really does tip him towards doing it is that amazing speech by Uncle Ben. With great power comes great responsibility. That carries out and echoes throughout this entire series and pretty much Spider-Man as a character as a whole, and this is honestly the most notable one. This is the one that people refer to the most, so it really does shine why Spider-Man is Spider-Man, and same thing with the Green Goblin. You really see and feel the reasons for him doing this, and he's almost justified in a sense. And same thing with his slow decline into insanity is perfect in this movie. It's something that upon rewatching it now and being a lot more analytical, it's something I really enjoyed about this movie. Just how he slowly gets creepier and creepier and more menacing. He starts hearing voices in his head and he develops this sort of split personality. And next is just the action sequences in this movie. They are really enjoyable to watch. Whether it's Spider-Man just taking down random goons or the fight scenes between the Green Goblin and Spider-Man, they're all superb to watch. They're such a fun time. The two most notable ones in my mind, the one that was always my favorite as a kid and growing up was the one in the birding building. I thought that one was friggin' amazing. But of course now watching it again, I think the end scene might trump it. The end scene, I didn't remember it feeling so brutal, because the sound effects at times do feel kind of cartoonish in this movie, but it's understandable, it's a 2002 comic book character movie. The end fight scene is super brutal. You go back and watch it, this is bloody. You hear a lot of crunching and bumping, and a lot of his practical effects. It is just stunt actors getting slammed through walls, getting fake punched, kicked, but it sounds really real. You're feeling the hits, and the end fight scene in this is probably the best fight scene in this whole movie. Because not only do you watch it and enjoy it, but you feel it, you hear it, and it really, you're like wincing because you're like, damn, these are stunt actors being pushed to their limit, and it's really amazing. It's something to marvel at. Next up is two other notable characters I really want to draw attention to, and it's because I think that they are the epitome of this character, and they are by far my favorite actors to portray these characters, and that is J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. There's a lot of J's. And Rosemary Harris as Aunt May. Honestly, I cannot see anybody else playing J. Jonah Jameson. There's people still calling for him now to come back in the new Spider-Man Homecoming Marvel Universe movies. And Rosemary Harris is by far the best Aunt May. Don't at me with Marissa Tomei. Whenever I think of Aunt May, this is who I picture as Rosemary Harris. For me, she is what Aunt May is. She embodies Aunt May perfectly. She is strong-willed. She will stick up for herself if she has to, as you see more throughout this trilogy actually, but she is the sweetest woman in the world, and I absolutely love her in this role. Next on the positives is the score to this movie. Not really much I can say about it here, but this score is Spider-Man. Whenever I hear the score, I think of Spider-Man. Whenever I see Spider-Man, I think of this score. They go perfectly together. They mesh wonderfully. It's just the sense of wonderment, the sense of really soaring, swinging through the buildings with Spider-Man. The fight sequences, everything just meshes perfectly. And lastly, on the positives is the end song, and that is Hero by Nickelback. Do not at me. Nickelback is a fine band, and this song is great. Honestly, I love it. Every single time I hear it, I jam out to it. I know every single word of it since I was a kid. This movie came out when I was like 3 or 4. I've known every single word of it since then. I love it. It fits with the movie so damn well. It's great. I don't care what you think of Nickelback. This song is awesome, and you have to admit it, or you're lying to yourself and me and everyone else, and that just, I can't respect you anymore. Now as for the middle ground, and that's just the CGI in this movie, because it is fine. It is more noticeable in other scenes than it is others. It's not terrible, even when you do notice it. It's not like god-awful or anything like that. It's noticeable, essentially. And other times, it looks just fine. So, the CGI kind of lands in the middle ground. It's not too polished, especially by today's standards, but it's not awful. Now for the negatives, and there's only actually 2 on this list, and the top one is something that has bothered me since I was a kid, and that is the fact that none of these people seem like they are high school students. They just don't. Okay, I've been out of high school for 3 years. Do I look like Tobey Maguire? Do I look like Joe Manganiello? Do I look like Kirsten Dunst? I really hope not. Do I look like James Franco? No, I don't look like any of these people. I'm honestly, maybe it's just me, but anyone that I graduated with does not look like any of these people in size, stature, anything. They just never felt like high school students to me, and I know they're graduating high school students, but still, they just don't feel like high school students. They don't seem like it, they don't act like it, talk like it, walk like it. And next is the fact that, and this is what I really battle with, it almost went in the middle ground, but I feel like I have to give it a negative, and that is the fact that a lot of this dialogue, and even some of the relationships in this movie, do feel clunky and awkward at times. Sometimes they work well, and it's great, but it felt like a lot of the time it didn't. Now that's what I was talking about with Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker. I understand he's supposed to be nerdy, he's supposed to be quirky and weird and awkward and clunky, and that's fine, and sometimes you really do feel like it, but other times to me, it just felt like Tobey Maguire forgot his lines and was like, and just kind of made stuff up on the spot, or just didn't really say anything, or didn't know what movie set he was on. He's like, oh, I thought we were filming, this is Spider-Man, oh, okay. And I felt like that with a lot of the cast. Like, there's that one scene in the backyard between Kirsten Dunst and Mary Jane, and Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker, when he's talking about her wanting to be an actress and in the plays and things like that. That felt genuine, that felt real, but then there are other times when they're talking that it just feels forced, awkward, and clunky, and it just seemed like they were meeting for the first time and they didn't really have that chemistry yet. Now, thankfully, a lot of this chemistry and a lot of these relationships are a lot better when it comes to the sequel, and maybe that's just from a filming perspective, maybe that's from a dialogue perspective, maybe that's just because the people got to know each other a lot better, but in this movie, a lot of it doesn't really hit with me. A lot of the dialogue comes off just weird and forced, and it didn't work for me. It didn't really feel like it. So guys, those are my thoughts on Spider-Man, 02 Spider-Man, the OG Spider-Man. Wait, no, there was that like TV movie or whatever, but we don't talk about that because that's something else. Well, with all that being said, guys, of course, it is time for the rating. I'm going to give Spider-Man 02 2002 a big whopping 8 out of 10. So guys, if you like this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Let me know, what are your thoughts on the original 2002 Spider-Man? And as always, folks, thank you so much for watching, and that's a wrap.